You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Tomorrow, June 12th on Netflix, Spike Lee's Vietnam-era film, The Five Bloods, debuts. It stars Roland Lindo, Clarke Peters, Norm Sims, Isaiah Whitlock. It's a fabulous movie, and I had a chance to sit down with Clarke Peters and chat with him about this amazing film. Watch this. All right, Clarke Peters, man, glad to have you with me. Let's talk about The Five Bloods. How intense was this? I can tell by watching it, y'all did a lot of sweating.
Well, Roland, first of all, thank you for having me on here. It's been a desire to be in your company and commune and talk with you for a long time. But to your question, it was hot. For a lot of times working under conditions that those vets were working under, 90 degrees, it must have averaged about 100 degrees daily, whether we're in the bush or whether we were walking through a rice paddy field, or just on in the arid land, and then carrying all that stuff on top of it. It wasn't an easy gig. No, it wasn't.
So, man, I'm telling you, it was just interesting just watching it because, again, I was sitting there going, especially when Spike chose not to use younger actors to play y'all younger. I bet y'all were like, why in the hell he got us out here running around with these guns, shooting these action scenes in this heat?
That's a good observation. I can remember we did a boot camp for about 2 weeks prior to shooting where we had to be these ex-military men doing all that kind of stuff, outside shooting, fanning to the right, left, getting down, getting up. I got 2 metal knees, I can't be running around like that like I used to be, But it served the purpose. It served the purpose for what it might feel like for a person who has PTSD, that they are reliving situations that are in the past that are traumatic, and they have no control over that. The situation remains the same, but they have grown old.
Well, that was really, when Spike told me he was shooting this, I mean, obviously, we were waiting to actually see what it looked like, and he wanted to tell a story. He wanted to do a story about the Black experience of soldiers during Vietnam. I mean, I think a lot of people really, really, really will get an understanding on the reality of that PTSD, of the pain and the trauma that troops had to endure there, and then also coming back.
Yes. I hope so, because, as a teenager, I was against all of that. As an adult, I appreciate what these men do, and having been stuck out there, not being shot at, I have to take a hat to them, and for them to be treated the way that they're being treated all across the world. Veterans are just citizens, it's a crying shame. I have a friend in Baltimore who said to me, they teach you how to do all these atrocious things, but when you come on back, they don't unteach you how to do all of this stuff. It becomes so much a part of you, and you're a broken person, so that moment when Otis and Paul are talking to each other, it's about being able to talk with love to each other, to be supportive of each other in that shared trauma, which being a mediator with your pain, really. Otherwise, I can't see that not overwhelming a human being. I cannot see that. It's like if we are still suffering the effects of slavery 400 years later. Imagine a person who's been trained to go out and kill some men, women, children, and see that and have your best friends dying right there to you. What does that leave you with?
One of the things that really shone through the film is the idea of brotherhood. That you really, really and truly are brothers out there, and that experience locks in a lifetime of brotherhood.
Yes.
All of you are actors, but what did you do off air to establish that level of camaraderie where you wanted people to feel that brotherhood when watching the film?
Well, first of all, we were 5 black men in a foreign country. You know, we would dine each other. We would hang out with each other. We would go on tours with each other. We would talk about the script. We would talk about Black history. And men of a certain generation naturally find a love or a bond. You know, I'd worked with Isaiah before, and we've always had a wonderful and good time. So it's easy to love that brother. You know, Delroy was someone who I'd seen throughout my career, always wanted to work with, and I loved his work. So it was a joy just being with him. You know, for Norm, we both come out of theater. We've done the same roles on both sides of the ocean. You know, so it was a joy there. So the love, you know, and the bonding was easy off stage, you know, off camera. So it couldn't help, and it was a blessing that we were able to take it onto the camera. You know, it was an easy, that was a given. We love each other, you know, and we hope that it's something that will be picked up by other people to understand. You know, when we love each other, can nothing stop us.
One of the things that I thought was quite interesting when we talk about that idea of brotherhood, that is, anytime that there was an issue and there was dissension, there was disagreement, you all forced one another to come back to the point of brotherhood. And by essentially saying, look, this is a circle of one. We're not going to allow the circumstance. And so the placing of the hands in the center where you all had to touch and agree. I think back to the same scene in the 5 Heartbeats. Yep. Same thing. And so it really spoke loudly that no matter what we go through, we might be pissed off with each other, angry with each other, at the end, we've got to come back to that point of setting it all aside because we're still brothers.
And your point is that it's something that needs to be brought back into the community, into the fold. I imagine that there was a time when people migrated from the south to the north, and whether they knew each other, what they had in common was the struggle, and so they were able to help each other through the new struggle. There's a generation who doesn't realize what we went through in the 60s to bring about, you know, the voting rights or the anti-segregation bills and all of this. You know, not been in that situation. I can see that it's hard for one to understand how this can be or recognize the power in it, you know. But it's a necessary thing for all of us to get back to. It's a thing all men of color have got to get back to, because we are divided, and if we remain divided, we will be conquered. There is no doubt about that. I got no doubts, you know. But as long as you keep as long as cats like you keep this conversation going, right? There's hope.
Well, that's one look. We absolutely will definitely keep the conversation going because, again, as you know, the reason the brotherhood aspect resonated with me. I'm a life member of Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and we have what I actually call brotherhoods, where we look, women, wives, girlfriends, no one is invited. We shut everybody off. And man, we might be in that brotherhood for 5, 6, 8, 10 hours, and some of the most deeply personal things come out in that. And it's all about connecting with one another and realize that we have something in common, and that even if we don't see each other for a long time, that brotherhood still exists. And I just think that really spoke loudly watching this film and just looking at the interaction, and even at times when the other men didn't know what was going on in a brother's life, once they found out, you can see they felt the collective pain for that brother.
Yes. There's what we tend to not want to do is share our vulnerabilities with each other. And when we do share our vulnerabilities with each other, it gives the listener of our vulnerabilities a chance to exercise their strength. It gives them a chance to exercise their compassion. So it's necessary, as you saw with this, when with Paul and Otis talking about Paul talking about his PTSD, Otis saying, you got to talk to somebody about that. I invite you to come along and sit with us. If we don't go through that type of fire, if we don't sit in the crucible with other brothers going through this motion, then we're not galvanized within ourselves. You're still a bit of soft clay. You haven't been what's the word? You haven't been
baptized.
Fortified,
Right. So I gotta ask you this here. You talked about working with Isaiah before. That dude is absolutely hilarious. I mean, so even though this is a drama, it is intense. He just delivers some of the funniest lines in this movie. He had to have y'all cracking up on the set.
More often than not. There's one scene where some of his lines were taken on out because it was just too funny. I mean, he would just. I love Isaiah because when we were in Baltimore together, he would travel around Baltimore on a bicycle, and I'd say, "Hey, Holmes, why don't you get a car?" And he said, "Clarke, it's the way I like to get down, but like you make me embarrassed every time you see me with the bicycle." Well, at the end of one season, I was in New York, and I saw him coming up 8th Avenue on his bicycle, and he tried to hide. And all we could do is laugh. All we could do is laugh about this. I got a lot of time for Isaiah. I really, really, really do. And he's one of my theater brothers. So yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot to mess around with.
Obviously, when we examine the various relationships, I really was surprised watching it to see the inclusion of the son of Youngblood Lindo. Because it was sort of like when I watched the movie and I'm thinking it's the four of you going back. Then all of a sudden that character is brought in. I thought that was a really interesting thing because it brought the next generation to come full frontal with what that previous generation had to endure, and for him to actually see what that pain was like for his father that he never really understood. I thought that was a very interesting twist that was used.
I hope that some young bloods who see that come to the same conclusion as you, Roland. It's one thing to see the vets out there on the street, with a sign across them saying homeless or off on drugs. But it's another thing to walk in their shoes and understand how they got in that condition. And until, in this respect, until some young men really take a look at it, and this is almost redundant for Black Americans because we are constantly in war anyway, daily. So, and if you think you're not, then you gotta rethink your position. But for us as well, it was great to have young blood there so that we could as well express our need to nurture and to look after him as well, because he might have been Paul's son, but he was all of our nephews. You dig what I'm saying? It was necessary to find a way to keep him in the fold, and also not give him an easy pass. You don't get no easy passes. You follow what we're going to say, and then no questions about it. Otherwise, we'll throw your ass off of that. Off that back. And like he said, well, one of y'all are coming with us. That made us think, well, that might be true, but that's kind of how it went down.
Well, it was. I mean, it's one of those things that, look, I mean, I watch a lot of movies, and what was also great, which frankly we do not see a lot of. We don't see a lot of films of older Black men being able to show and go from love, brotherhood, vulnerability. And we've seen movies with younger brothers. I think back to Juice and others. But it was also great to see Black men operating in a space where it was really just them. Now, yes, you had other characters who came into play, but this is really a movie that speaks to this space where it was just Black men dealing with one another.
Yes. Black men dealing with each other in a situation that was only theirs, a situation that isn't shared with, or that is unique, Black men going back to find their fallen brother. That alone is a valuable lesson and a wonderful story, that should plant the seeds of compassion and need to nurture, hopefully, in some youngsters. I can remember looking at these films when I was a kid. Saturday afternoon, you'd always get some old black and white film that turned out to be a propaganda film, but there were elements of it that made you feel heroic, that you wanted to be the hero. I got a chance to play in one of those films, and it's called The Five Bloods. And it had nothing to do with anyone else except us trying to look after each other and care of each other and love each other. I think that's what it's that love, I think, anything else that is prominent in this piece. I think that's what people will carry away with them. You know, speaking with some of the young sisters that I've been doing interviews with, that's what they are taking away with from it. You know, that's what they've got from this. You know, I wasn't too sure, and I'm still not too sure of exactly how the rest of the world is going to take it. In light of everything that's going on now, in light of all that, with this history lesson that you're also getting, you're getting more than you bargained for your money, whether you know it or not.
I do have to ask you this here. The character you played in Love Is. I first of all, I love the show. Love Mara Bracakeel, Salima Keel. But what I really appreciated about it is that what you really showed, and again, it's just what you're not seeing a lot. We're seeing it more now because of streaming services, because of more opportunities. We're actually seeing it, but really this sense of humanity and deep love that character was able to exhibit. And it wasn't about being macho. It was about being vulnerable at times. And I just really thought what you did with that character was really great. And I've told Mara, I said, I really hope she is able to bring that show back, because I just thought it was just an amazing thing to watch Black love, pain, agony, ecstasy every single week.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, over here, I remember walking through one of the grocery stores, and I'm being followed by this young sister, you know, and she stops me. She says, "Hey, excuse me, love. Are you that bloke that's on that Love Is thing?" I said, "Yes." She said, you know, I'm. It's the best thing that she'd ever seen, you know. When we get a chance to express, again, I guess sometimes we just need to be shown how to love, you know. But one thing I do know about love is that if you stay in it, it really can take care of everything, you know. What I love about that show was that this was a couple that was going through all sorts of stuff. And because they took the time to remember where their center was, which was that pillar of love, they were able to overcome some stuff. I felt that also, and this is, you know, I might be speaking out of turn here, but I think it needs to be said, is that a brilliant opportunity was missed when all the nonsense went down with that. Because had they kept the cameras rolling and the people writing, we would have been able to see that love in work in real time,
I agree.
in a real situation, and it shouldn't have been pulled off because of what it was pulled off for. But we should have stood up and challenged it with the same things that we were doing on that show. Yeah.
I agree.
More of that. We can't be afraid of this stuff. You know, we can't be afraid of it. There's nothing soft about loving. You know, you try that, man. It's hard. It's hard sometimes to forgive somebody and to be in the same room with them. It's hard as hell. But if you stay there and you stick with it, you find yourself elevated by the experience. You know? And sometimes I think that there's a conspiracy against us to love ourselves because of the power of it. Because it's easier, it's almost easier to smack somebody upside the head rather than sit back and argue, debate, try to understand another person's side. There was a time when we used to fight. Nowadays, when stuff goes wrong, you just eliminate the problem. What kind of nonsense is that? That don't make no sense to me whatsoever. But somewhere in the space of love and what love is about, there's a healing that takes place. Whatever that energy is, whatever it is, mamas can pick you up off the floor with a broken arm and hold you, and her love is that arm feel good, A man can go out and have an affair. A woman can go out and have an affair and completely screw up everything. But if their partner says, listen, I'm going to try to understand what's going on here. I'm going to give you a little bit of the benefit of a doubt. I guarantee you that they'll be in court tomorrow. No.
Well, man, again, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for how you played that role. I just really think that it's important for black men to see characters like that that represents a level of manhood that we often don't see. And so I just thought that was just really important, and I've expressed that to Mara and Salim as well. That really, again, I really think stories like that are vital, because unfortunately, and just like stories like what we see in The Five Bloods is vital, is because we don't see enough of black men showing that love, care, affection for one another. That and this is, again, and I want sisters to understand, just like when I talk about being in my fraternity, there are places that women cannot and should not be when it comes to black men. Just like there are places that black women need to be at amongst black women. And I just think seeing that also speaks to brothers and say it's okay to love your fellow brother and be able to express what you're going through, if it's pain, if it's joy, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. And the more that we see that, the more that we will give examples to youngsters and the right to go ahead and do that for themselves, rather than taking the easy way out. And you're right. We have to do it for ourselves. Men have got to do it for men. Women have got to do it for women. There's a place where only we can communicate with each other. Only we can communicate with each other. It's a place where we can nurture each other to stay in whatever that relationship is and to weather whatever problems you and your partner are going through. We need that ourselves. And the more that we find a place to lodge that respect, the stronger we will be. This ain't Ozzie and Harriet time. This ain't Leave It to Beaver nonsense. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff that were given to us in the 50s and the 60s on how your family should function, and father knows best. Some fathers don't know shit. Excuse my language. Sometimes he don't know. Good. Sometimes mama knows a lot more. You know what I'm saying? You get me riled up.
Absolutely.
Here now, mate.
Well, again, I try not to ask the traditional Hollywood questions when it comes to movies, and so we do a little bit different of my show. Clarke Peters, it has been absolute fabulous chatting with you. Hopefully, our paths will get to cross one day, and then I'll get to give you one of those brotherhood embraces.
Amen. I look forward to that, Roland, and you keep on doing what you're doing, man, because you are my mainstay when I'm not in America. You keep me in touch with what's going on. I love the conversations that you guys have, the debates, and that Candice Owen, whatever her name is, you stay on that girl's butt. You understand? Don't let her up. Do not let her up. That's absolute nonsense. More power to you, bro.
Will do. All right, brother, you take care.
And you. Peace.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Ceek course, you know, black-owned company. Mary Spiel owns it. They have these wonderful headphones, 360-degree 4D headphones that are fantastic, unbelievable sound. We have a partnership with them, folks, where if you get these headsets, you can actually use your promo code to get a discount. And so what you should do is use RMVIP 2020, RMVIP 2020 for these particular headphones. They're absolutely fabulous. Sounds great. And again, when you buy these, you are supporting a black-owned company. Go to Ceek.com, CEEK.com. That's CEEK.com. Trust me, you will certainly enjoy what they sound like.